Zara Stanford had always known how to smile for the camera, speak in carefully measured tones, and wear designer labels like Second Skin. Her life had been shaped to perfection by her parents, founders of the Stanford Legacy Group, one of the largest luxury hospitality empires in the country. But perfection had become a prison. With golden skin that shimmered under the sun, a freckled chest she once tried to cover up, and hair styled in a neat, classic press and curl, Zara was a portrait of grace and expectation. Her oval-shaped eyes were warm and observant, but lately they held the weight of someone searching for more. At medium height and a balanced build, she moved with quiet elegance, yet inside she was restless. Her parents had mapped out every step of her life: prep school, Ivy League business degree, internships in Paris and Milan, and now a junior executive role at the family's flagship resort. But Zara had dreams that couldn't fit on a boardroom agenda. Art, travel, community, love that wasn't strategic or headline-worthy. She didn't want to destroy the empire her family built. She just wanted to breathe outside of it. So when the city transit strike hit, she saw an opportunity to ditch the driver, blend in, and take the bus like everyone else. She dressed down in thrifted jeans and oversized sweaters, calling herself Z. For the first time in years, she wasn't a Stanford. She was just another woman waiting for a bus, figuring things out. And that's when she met Jack. He didn't know her legacy. He didn't care about it. He talked to her like she mattered, not because of her last name, but because of her laugh, her thoughts, her dreams. Zara didn't know where this journey would lead, but for once, it would be hers. It started at the gala. Zara Stanford stood under a shimmering crystal chandelier in a gown hand-stitched in Milan. Surrounded by Manhattan's most elite, her parents smiled at guests, praising her for stepping up into the family legacy. Champagne flowed, flashbulbs snapped, but inside she was unraveling. The breaking point came when a family friend leaned in and whispered, "So Zara, when's the engagement to Harrison Monroe happening? Your parents must be thrilled." She blinked. Harrison? Her father's protege? He had mentioned they'd make a strong match, but she never agreed to anything. Zara forced a polite smile and excused herself. Behind closed restroom doors, she stared at her reflection. Not at her dress, not at her flawless makeup, but at her eyes, tired, hollow, and lost. The truth hit her like ice water. She wasn't living her life. She was performing someone else's script. The next morning, Zara dressed differently. Vintage jeans, plain tee, hoodie pulled up. She packed a sketch pad, tossed on sunglasses, and left through the side service door before anyone could stop her. The transit strike had paralyzed most of the city, but she found a slow-moving neighborhood shuttle line still running. She waited at a crowded bus stop in Harlem, uncertain, yet strangely free. That's where she saw him. A man leaned against the metal post, hard hat under one arm, lunchbox in the other. He looked up, caught her eye, then offered a small nod. Nothing performative, just human. He was around her age, tall, with sun-warmed skin, dark curls, and a slight dusting of concrete on his boots. Real, unpolished, safe. She glanced at the posted schedule. 20 minutes late, she muttered. More like 40, he replied. You must be new to this stop. She hesitated, then smiled. Yeah. First day on the job. He smirked. Welcome to the grind, rookie. They shared a short laugh. She learned his name was Jack Rivera, and he worked nearby on a redevelopment project. They didn't trade personal histories, just small talk, music, coffee, how broken the transit system was. But it was the first conversation she'd had in months that didn't revolve around business, image, or legacy. The bus eventually came. They both climbed on. As she sat down, heart racing for reasons she didn't understand, Zara knew she'd return to this spot again tomorrow. Not because of the bus, because of Jack. Zara returned to the bus stop the next day. And the day after that. Sometimes the bus never came. Other times it crawled past their feet and kept going. But Zara didn't care. The delay was a gift. Jack quickly became the highlight of her mornings. He was funny in a dry, matter-of-fact way, and didn't talk just to fill the silence. He listened, asked real questions. When she told him she was an artist, trying to find her voice, he didn't scoff or question her life choices. He just nodded like he got it. "You working on anything now?" he asked one morning. She shrugged, clutching her sketchbook. "A few pieces. I mostly draw people, strangers." He smiled. "Ever draw someone you know?" Zara laughed nervously. "Only when they're not looking." They started grabbing coffee together at a corner bodega. On weekends, he'd invite her to walk a few blocks to the park before his shift. She learned he was helping his sister raise her kids after their parents passed, that he wanted to launch his own construction firm and work with underserved communities. He even shared his dream of flipping rundown homes into affordable homes. "You could paint the walls," he said one day, nudging her with his elbow. "We'd make a decent team." Zara blinked, caught off guard by how real that sounded. A team, her and Jack. But reality still waited uptown in a penthouse that smelled like roses and imported marble. Each evening, Zara would re-enter her other life. She'd respond to board meeting emails, pose for the occasional PR shoot, and attend curated philanthropy dinners beside her mother, who reminded her constantly that the Stanford name came with responsibility and elegance. She didn't tell Jack her last name. She let him believe she lived in a flat share in the Bronx and worked gigs while building her portfolio. Her clothes were carefully selected from thrift stores and local shops. Her phone was prepaid and kept separate from her real one. She even created a simple online artist profile under Z Morgan, her middle name. At first, it felt harmless. Jack wasn't like the men she'd known. He didn't chase headlines or obsess over status. He loved early sunrises and building something with his hands. He was grounded. Good. But as they grew closer, laughing over old cartoons, sharing playlists, exchanging stories about childhood fears and hidden talents, Zara felt the weight of her secret tightening like a noose. Every moment with him was real, and every truth she didn't tell was a crack in the foundation they were building. One night, Jack invited her to dinner with his family. His niece clung to Zara's hand like glue. His sister raved about how different Jack had become since Zara came around. Happier, more open. After the meal, they sat outside on the stoop, the city humming around them. "You're kind of amazing, you know that?" he said softly, looking at her under the streetlight. Zara swallowed hard. "You don't really know me, Jack." He reached for her hand. "I know what matters." But did he? Could she really keep hiding her name, her legacy, her world? And what would happen when he found out the truth? The sky over Harlem was dipped in hues of deep plum and burnt orange as Zara and Jack sat on the rooftop of his cousin's building. An old radio played soft jazz beside them, and the air carried the faint scent of grilled food from a nearby apartment window. Zara curled her knees up to her chest, wrapped in one of Jack's hoodies, her curls gently brushing her cheek from the soft breeze. Jack sat close, but not too close, his hand resting between them on the blanket. The silence was warm, comforting, but inside her, a storm was brewing. She turned to face him, her voice low. "There's something I need to tell you." Jack looked over at her, his brow furrowed just slightly. "Okay." She hesitated, staring down at her hands. Her gold skin shimmered under the streetlight glow, and the freckles on her chest felt like fire now, exposed and vulnerable. "There are things about me," she said slowly, "about my family, my life that I haven't shared. And it's not because I don't trust you. It's because I'm afraid." Jack's expression softened. "Afraid of what?" "That you'll see me differently. That you'll think everything between us isn't real." He shook his head gently. "Z, whatever it is, I won't run. I don't care if your past is messy or your family's complicated. Everyone's got something. What matters is what we're building right now." Zara blinked back sudden tears. His kindness felt like a hug and a heartbreak at once. "I want to believe that," she whispered. "But I also know, when I tell you, everything will change. Even if you stay, even if you try to understand, you'll never look at me the same way again." Jack leaned in a little closer. "So don't tell me tonight, not if you're not ready. But don't shut me out either, Zara." Her breath caught. "Zara, not Z." She looked up startled. "You knew?" He smiled faintly. "I figured Z was short for something. Didn't take much guessing. I just didn't push." She laughed softly through her nerves. "You're too good, Jack. I don't deserve this kind of patience." He shrugged. "I just liked you, and I want to see where this goes. All of it. Mess and mystery included." Zara nodded slowly, the tension in her chest easing just slightly. "Give me a little more time," she said, "before everything changes." Jack reached over and took her hand. "Take all the time you need. Just don't disappear on me." It started with a magazine cover. Jack was walking to the bodega with his friend Marcus after work. Sweat still clinging to his skin from the job site. They were joking about the Knicks when Marcus stopped mid-step in front of the newsstand. "Yo, Jack, isn't that your girl?" Jack followed Marcus's gaze. On the cover of Uptown Elite, glossy and styled to perfection, was Zara. Not Z in her hoodie and worn-out sneakers. No. This was Zara Stanford, radiant in a fitted white blazer, her hair sleek in a press and curl, standing beside her parents with the headline, "The Next Generation, Zara Stanford prepares to take over the Stanford hospitality empire." The blood drained from Jack's face. "No way," he muttered. He grabbed the magazine and stared. The freckles were the same. The smile was slightly restrained, but unmistakable. Marcus pulled out his phone. "Bro, this is wild. She's like a billionaire. Board member, Stanford Legacy Group. This her?" Jack couldn't speak. "She said she was an artist," Marcus continued scrolling. "Man, she's been doing interviews, charity galas, vacationing in Lake Como with fashion execs. She's not some local girl, she's royalty." Jack didn't wait to hear more. He stormed off. That evening, Zara was sketching in the park when Jack approached. His face was unreadable. His steps heavy. She smiled at first, until she saw his expression. "Jack?" He didn't return the smile. "You lied to me." Her heart dropped. "I didn't lie," she said softly. "I just didn't tell you everything yet. I was going to." "When?" His voice cracked. "After I told my family how real you were? After I let myself believe this wasn't just some rich girl experiment?" Tears welled in her eyes. "It wasn't. None of this was fake." Jack stepped back, shaking his head. "Do you have any idea how this looks? You showed up at a working-class bus stop pretending to be broke, drawing people like you were collecting stories. You let me believe you lived like us, struggled like us." "I needed to get away from my world," she said, voice trembling. "I wasn't using you. I just wanted something real." "But you weren't real," Jack snapped, pain cutting through every word. "You lied by omission, Zara. You looked me in the eye every day and let me fall for someone who didn't even exist." She reached for his hand, desperate. "Jack, please." He pulled away. "Whatever this was," he said, voice low, "it's done." And with that, he turned and walked away. Zara stood frozen in the fading light, heartbreaking under the weight of everything she hadn't said in time. 3 days had passed since Jack walked away from Zara. 3 days without her sketchbook in the crook of her arm. Without her laughing at his dry jokes. Without the way she looked at him. Like he mattered, not for what he built, but for who he was. Jack sat on the edge of the rooftop, alone. The same spot they used to share after long days. The breeze carried echoes of memories he wasn't ready to let go of. In his hand, he held the magazine cover, now worn from being folded and unfolded too many times. He had looked at her face 100 times, trying to match the woman on the glossy page with the one who drank bodega coffee, and wiped mustard off his cheek with her sleeve. She wasn't a lie. She was just more than she let him see. He remembered her voice that night. "There are things about me, about my family, I'm afraid to tell you because you'll see me differently." He had promised he wouldn't. And she had smiled, sad, knowing, because she had been right. He had seen her differently. The truth was, she tried to tell him. She wanted to be honest, but she also wanted to hold on to the world they had built at that bus stop. Simple, untainted, theirs. And maybe she was scared he'd love her less once he knew the weight she carried. He sighed deeply, rubbing a calloused hand over his face. Maybe he had been too hard, too quick to judge. The truth hurt, yes, but wasn't that what she feared most? He could still see the fear in her eyes. Not fear of exposure, but fear of losing him. "Damn," Jack whispered into the quiet sky, his voice barely audible. "You were right, Z. I didn't just see you differently, I pushed you away before I could see all of you." He pulled out his phone and opened the last message she sent before everything exploded. She had simply written, "I'm still me." And somehow Jack knew she was. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to figure out the rest of her story. The call came just after sunset. Jack's sister Carmen had been in a minor kitchen fire. The damage wasn't catastrophic, but the back of the house was scorched, roof partially collapsed, smoke damage everywhere. Carmen and the kids were safe, but they'd have to stay in a hotel for the next few weeks, and insurance red tape was already kicking in. Jack stood outside the house in a worn t-shirt and dust-covered jeans, talking with a contractor and trying to hold it all together. The kids were crying. Carmen was overwhelmed. Neighbors offered sympathy, but not much else. Then a car pulled up at the curb, sleek, black, and completely out of place in the neighborhood. Jack turned, jaw tightening. Zara stepped out, wearing old jeans, scuffed sneakers, and no makeup. Her curls were pulled into a puff under a bandana. She carried a box of supplies: gloves, masks, bottled water, flashlights, snacks, and behind her, another car pulled up, loaded with bins and tops. He stared at her, stunned. "What are you doing here?" She walked slowly up to him, carefully placing the box at his feet. "Carmen's your family," she said. "That makes this my problem too." "You didn't have to, I know," she interrupted. She looked at him, straight into his eyes, and added, "I'm not here as Zara Stanford. I'm here as the girl who's still figuring it out. The one who meant everything she said at that bus stop. And I know I hurt you. I just hope my actions speak louder than my silence did." Jack didn't know what to say. His chest felt tight. His pride said nothing, but his heart beat louder than the noise. Behind them, Carmen stepped outside and gasped, "Is that the Z?" Zara offered a soft wave. "I brought food." Carmen grinned. "Then you can stay." They worked side by side for hours, clearing debris, organizing salvageable items, comforting Carmen's kids. Zara didn't flinch at the soot or the heavy lifting. When Jack caught her crouched beside the youngest, gently distracting him with a flashlight game, something in him cracked. She could have sent a donation. She could have sent her assistant. But she came herself. When the sun rose the next morning, Zara was still there, sweeping on the floor beside Carmen and the kids, a blanket draped over her shoulders. And for the first time since the truth came out, Jack didn't see Zara the heiress. He saw Z, the woman he fell for, flawed, brave, and beautifully real. The sun filtered through the cracked blinds, casting golden light across the living room floor. Zara stirred beneath a thin blanket, blinking awake to the soft sounds of a quiet house. The kids were still asleep in the next room. Carmen had gone to meet with the insurance adjuster. Jack was in the kitchen, silent and watching. He'd been watching her for the past 10 minutes, leaning against the counter with a coffee mug in his hand, arms crossed, not coldly, but in thought. Zara sat up slowly, stretching her arms and brushing hair from her eyes. Jack finally spoke. "You stayed." Zara looked up at him, heart cautiously beating. "Of course I did. You didn't have to." he said again, voice gentler this time. But you did. She nodded slowly, unsure what came next. Jack crossed the room and sat on the arm of the couch, staring down at his hands. I've been angry, he admitted, and not just because you didn't tell me who you were, but because I let myself believe that what we had wasn't real the second I saw that magazine. Like I forgot everything I knew about you, your laugh, the way you listen, how you show up for people. Zara swallowed, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't want to lie, Jack. I was just scared you'd see the version of me the world sees, and not the version I am with you. I did, he said. I saw the name, the money, the image, and I let it erase the woman sitting at the bus stop, sharing coffee and talking about art and dreams. He looked up now, right at her. But then you showed up here. No cameras, no driver. Just you and your hands, and that ridiculous amount of snacks, he added with a crooked smile. She laughed softly, eyes watering. You were right that night, Jack continued. Everything did change, but not because of your last name. It changed because I started to realize something. Zara held her breath. I'm falling in love with you, Zara. The whole you. Not the heiress, not the girl in disguise, just you. She blinked, stunned, and I was wrong, he added. You didn't lie to me. You protected something fragile between us, and I should have fought harder for it. Zara stood slowly, closing the space between them. I wanted to tell you everything sooner, she said, but I didn't want to lose you before I even had the chance to truly be myself. He took her hand, gently pulling her into his arms. You've got me now, he murmured, and we'll figure out the rest together. They held each other in that quiet morning light. No secrets, no fear. Just the beginning of something true. 2 days later, Carmen sat at the small dining table with a stack of paperwork and frustration written all over her face. The insurance company had stalled again, asking for more documentation, delaying the adjuster's visit, and offering an insultingly low estimate for the damage. I don't understand how they can play games like this, she muttered, flipping through the pages. It's like they're waiting for me to give up. Zara, seated beside her, glanced over the forms. They're stalling so they don't have to pay what they owe. I've seen this before with clients at the foundation. We work with a legal team that handles claims like this. Carmen looked up, hesitant. Do you think? Would it be too much to ask you for help? Zara offered a soft smile. Not at all. I can call someone tonight. They'll file a dispute and push it to escalation. It won't be overnight, but it'll get attention. Before Carmen could answer, Jack walked in with a bag of groceries, pausing mid-step as he caught the tail end of the conversation. You called in backup already? He asked, voice calm but tight. Zara stood slowly. She asked. I didn't push. She needs her house. Jack set the bag down a little too hard. I just don't want you thinking we're using you. Zara stepped toward him, steady and unshaken. And I don't want you thinking helping your family makes me feel used. It doesn't. He looked away, jaw clenched. Zara softened her tone. Jack, put away your pride for a second. This isn't about Gus. This is about Carmen and her kids needing a safe place to sleep. He turned to face her, emotions flickering in his eyes. Shame, protectiveness, and something tenderer underneath. I know, he said quietly. It's just, when you came into my life, you didn't come in swinging your name around. You were just Z. And I fell for that. I just don't want any part of me, or my family, feeling like we're riding your name now that we know the truth. Zara stepped closer, placing her hand on his chest. Your family doesn't need my name, Jack. They need results, and I'm in a position to help, not because I'm a Stanford, because I care. About you, about them, about doing something that matters with what I've been given. Jack looked down at her hand, then into her eyes. His pride cracked just enough. Okay, he said softly. Make the call. She smiled gently. Already did. Jack exhaled a long breath, wrapping an arm around her shoulders as Carmen quietly wiped a tear behind them. I don't know what you are to this family yet, Carmen said, but I do know this. You belong here. 6 weeks later, the house was whole again. Fresh siding replaced the charred exterior. The kitchen gleamed with new tile and warm cabinets. The smell of sawdust still lingered in the air, but laughter now filled the space where silence and worry once lived. Jack had overseen every detail of the rebuild himself. Early mornings, late nights, sketching plans at the table with Zara beside him, sometimes barefoot, sipping coffee while cross-checking measurements. He hired a crew made up of local tradesmen, friends, neighbors, people who respected the work and the reason behind it. Zara, true to her word, never took over. She supported, quietly, strategically. When permits got delayed, she made the right call. When the insurance company dragged their feet, she pressed with legal support. And when Carmen insisted on paying them both back, Zara just smiled and said, "Then promise to let me host the first dinner here." Today was that day. Paper lanterns swayed from the porch. Carmen's kids chased each other through the backyard. Music drifted from a Bluetooth speaker as neighbors gathered to admire the transformation. Jack leaned against the doorway, watching it all, watching her. Zara stood across the lawn, in jeans and a white button-down, her curls soft and free in the breeze, her smile easy, eyes locked on his. He crossed the distance slowly. "You know," he said, stopping in front of her, "you never told me what happened to that sketchbook." She grinned. "It's full. Every day we spent here, every step of the rebuild, it's all in there." Jack chuckled. "So I made the cut, huh?" "You were the whole story," she said softly. A beat of silence passed before Jack took her hands. "This house isn't the only thing that's been rebuilt these past weeks," he said. "I've rebuilt the way I see partnership, trust, and what it means to build a life, not just for someone, but with them." Zara's eyes glistened. "I want that with you, Z. No lies, no secrets, just us, you and me, fully." Tears welled in her eyes. "You really mean that?" Jack nodded. "I've never meant anything more." Then, in front of family, friends, and the home they brought back to life, he pulled her in and kissed her, slow, tender, and certain. The crowd erupted in cheers, Carmen whistling loudest. Later that night, under strings of warm lights and stars, they slow danced barefoot on the porch. The house stood tall behind them, a symbol of healing. Zara leaned in close, resting her head on his chest. "So what's next?" she whispered. Jack smiled into her hair. "Whenever we build together." The office was small but full of purpose. Exposed brick walls, soft lighting, and a large photo collage of families smiling in front of rebuilt homes. In the center of the wall, a wooden sign read, "The Groundwork Foundation. Rebuilding homes, restoring dignity." Zara adjusted a framed article featuring their story. The heiress and the contractor who built something real. Jack walked in from the field with blueprints under one arm and a little sawdust in his hair. He grinned when he saw her fussing with the frames. "You're redecorating again?" he teased. She turned with a mock glare. "I'm curating atmosphere. It helps with donor confidence." He laughed and leaned down to kiss her cheek. "Remind me again how I got roped into starting a nonprofit?" "You fell in love," she said with a smirk, "and then couldn't say no to helping people." He shrugged. "Fair." In the past year, Zara and Jack had turned their personal crisis into a calling. After witnessing how broken the insurance system was, how easily working families could be left homeless by loopholes, they pooled their skills and networks to create the Groundwork Foundation. Zara handled strategy, fundraising, and storytelling, using her name not for status, but for access and impact. Jack managed the construction crews, led training workshops for young apprentices, and oversaw every repair and rebuild personally. Their pilot program restored 4 homes in underserved neighborhoods that year, families affected by fires, floods, and neglect, all denied coverage or priced out of help. Now, the waiting list stretched across 3 boroughs. As they wrapped up a team meeting that day, Carmen arrived with her kids, laughing, holding up homemade cookies, still living in the home they rebuilt together. "You two really did it," she said proudly. "You turned heartbreak into hope." Zara looked at Jack, her heart full. "We just started," she said softly. And as they stood together, no longer hiding, no longer uncertain, Zara knew they hadn't just rebuilt a house or a romance. They had built a life, brick by brick, truth by truth, together. 10 years later, the sound of little feet echoed through the hallway. "Mom, Dad, he took my crayon again." "Did not." "Did too." Zara Stanford Rivera looked up from her laptop, half laughing, half sighing as her two children stormed into the living room. Sammy, age 7, proudly holding a green crayon like it was treasure, and Nova, age 5, hands on her hips, full of sass and sparkle. Jack appeared right behind them, paint smudged on his work shirt, a tired grin on his face. "I swear, they inherited your dramatic flair." Zara raised an eyebrow. "And your ability to turn anything into a construction zone." The house was lively, cozy, and filled with love. Artwork from Nova covered the fridge. Sammy's toy tools were scattered across the floor. A framed photo from a decade ago sat on the mantel. Zara and Jack standing outside Carmen's rebuilt home, arms around each other, glowing with new love and old strength. So much had changed since then. They were now husband and wife, co-founders of a fully staffed and nationally recognized nonprofit, the Groundwork Foundation, which had expanded across 3 states, rebuilding over 3,000 homes for families left behind by bureaucracy and disaster. Zara still handled strategy and advocacy. Jack still showed up to every build, hard hat on, sleeves rolled up. They didn't live in the penthouse or care about galas anymore. They built a home in the neighborhood where they met, where kids played outside and neighbors gathered for cookouts. Later that evening, after the kids had gone to bed, Jack and Zara sat on the porch, watching the stars. "You ever think about that bus stop?" he asked. Zara smiled. "Every time life feels heavy. That's where everything real began." He reached for her hand, fingers laced with hers. "You changed my world." She leaned into his shoulder. "We built a better one, together." And under the soft glow of porch lights and the sounds of their children laughing in dreams inside, Zara and Jack knew their love story wasn't just one they lived. It was one they gave to others, one home at a time. The end. Hope you enjoyed this wonderful story by Green Tea Tales. Help our channel to grow with likes, shares, and subscribers.